Hi, it's Carly McAvoy. I wanted to do the video to help you prepare for in-class work. There's two parts in this in-class. It's measurement and linear systems, and the linear systems will be in a separate video, but this one's going to cover your measurement. I did include in these notes just some conversions that might be useful for you to have, and you can keep those if you need them. Also, just a reminder, the area of a rectangle is length times width. And for a perimeter of a rectangle, you can just add up all sides. There is also the formula 2L plus 2W, but it works just to say add all sides as well. You want to be careful when you're working with decimals and fractions that you don't always just change your fractions to decimals. When it's okay is if you have an exact fraction like 1/2 or 1/4, because 3 1/2 is exactly 3.5 and 3 1/4 is exactly 3.25. But you don't want to change if you have 1/3, for instance, because 1/3 is 0.333. So you're going from an exact fraction into an inexact decimal because you have to round that off somewhere. So be careful about that. One of the things you have to do in your measurement assignment in class is to find the area when it's given something like 18 feet 10 inches by 23 feet 4 inches. Notice this is in feet and inches, and it's asking what is the area in square yards. So the first thing you want to do is you want to change 18 feet 10 inches and 24 feet 4 inches into either feet or inches. And you can do either way. I'm going to do it by changing it into feet today, but if you wanted to do the other way, that's okay. But you want to get them all in the same. So when you have 18 feet 10 inches, it's 18 and 10/12 because there's 12 inches in a foot, and 23 and 4/12. So I'm just taking those inches and putting them over 12, and then I'm going to reduce those so I have a little smaller fractions to work with. 10/12 is 5/6 and 4/12 is 1/3. And then I would use a calculator here. And if you're not sure how to use your calculator, I have video, I'll put it in the description of how to do multiply mixed numbers with the TI-36X Pro. But you can figure out how to do that on any calculator. And if you're in my class, I'm happy to show you in class. So I multiply these two. And when I multiply them, I get 439 and 4/9. Now, I don't want to leave it in square feet though. I got square feet because I'm multiplying feet times feet. But now I want to change it into square yards. When you have a square yard, this is kind of pushed over, funny. If you have a square yard, think of this as 1 yard on each side. That's 3 feet because there's 3 feet in 1 yard. So I have 3 times 3 or 9 square feet. So there's 9 square feet in a square yard. So sometimes when people see the feet, they divide by 3. But if you're talking about square units, you have to divide by 9. So now I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to take the 439 and 4/9 square feet that I had, and I'm going to multiply by that unit fraction that says 1 square yard is the same as 9 square feet. This equals 1. They're exactly equal to each other. It's the same, we're saying the same amount, but in two different ways. But what happens if you see the square feet up here and the square feet down there, they're going to cancel, and that's going to leave me with square yards. So then I would do on my calculator 439 and 4/9 divided by 9. Again, I didn't change these into decimals because they wouldn't be exact, and I wanted that exact answer. And then on my calculator, I would get the answer 48 and 67 over 81 square yards. And you can also change that into an improper, and I'm fine with that, but I like the mixed number because it's kind of what we started off with in a way. I don't know. So that's what the final answer would be. Now on your problem, it might say add a waste factor of 8% or 10% or whatever it is. And that's because when you're working in the real world, sometimes you cut something and you have a little piece left over that you can't use anywhere. So you end up wasting some of the product. It's hard to not do that. And so when you want to buy, you're going to buy extra because you're like, there's some pieces that are going to be used, not used. And so you add on a factor. To add the waste factor, you actually would multiply your final answer, in this case, 48 and 67 over 81. You would multiply that by 0.05, and then whatever you get, add back on. So you would say, okay, here's my final answer, plus I'm adding 5% more on. And then the other thing to remember, let's say that you ended up with an answer like 15.4 square yards. You can't go to the store and say, I want 15.4 square yards of boards. They're going to sell it to you by the whole square yard or some other unit maybe, but let's pretend it was the whole square yard. Then you'd have to buy 16, even though this would round down to 14, but that means you wouldn't have enough, right? So you're always thinking about rounding up when you're going to buy product. And you usually have something left over, but it's better to have a little left over than to run out and have to go back out and hope you match the stuff. Been there, done that. Okay, the other one is converting 60 feet over per seconds to miles per hour. Again, we're using the unit fractions here. So the unit analysis, what I want to do is I want to change feet into miles. And that's where you can come up here and say 5,280 feet is 1 mile. And so I'm going to have feet. I want to get rid of feet. So I want one on top and one on the bottom. So they would cancel out, and 1 mile is equivalent to 5,280 feet. So I've basically gotten rid of feet and I've changed into miles, which I wanted, but I also have to get rid of seconds. And so I would say I have seconds on the bottom, so I want to have seconds on the top. Those are going to cancel out, leaving me minutes. Notice I want hours, but I'm going to go to minutes first, and I have 60 seconds in a minute. And then I do one more where I say, but I really don't want minutes, I want hours. And so 60 minutes is 1 hour. And now if you multiply straight across, you have 60 times 60 on the top, and you're dividing that whole thing by 5,280. Use your calculator, and you get, rounded to the nearest hundredth, 40.91. Now look at your assignment. It might ask you to round to the hundredth or the thousandth or the tenth. You always want to be checking what you're doing for rounding. Okay, I'm going to do the second half of this, which is talking about the metric system in another video. So I'll see you next time.